Hello and welcome to Nerus. Today we'll be continuing where we left off, which if you recall was right before Nerus was about to tell Shax about this angel he met. He had just been told that the war with the angels was coming closer. So without further ado, let's get started.
Are you aware of the Battle of the Aeon, Shax? Do you know what transpired there?
I have heard that name before, but no.
Where do I start?
Nerus closed his eyes and hummed.
It began with a meeting much like the one we had today. However, the plan was different. Did you know angels don't reproduce, Shax?
Oh? Why not? He clicked his tongue, his entire body relaxing as he allowed himself to dive into memories of 200 years ago. Although slow, his words carried conviction as he explained.
Angels are not like us. They see each other like a large family. They often do not feel physical attraction to one another. You might be aware of this, but incestuous relationship between mortals often result in undesirable offspring. Bigger chances of unfavorable genes being passed down and whatnot. The angels have witnessed a case like this, so that is another factor.
So what you're getting at is that angels have limited numbers, yeah? Although they are backed up by the archons, but still.
Correct. However, like us, they can regenerate their bodies, making it impossible for us to truly reduce their numbers.
But not for an Aeon.
Indeed.
I figured out where this history was going, but I let Nerus talk as I continued grooming his fur. The objective of the Battle of the Aeon was to permanently cripple the angels by reducing their numbers. For this purpose, the shapeshifters hijacked one of the angels' portal facilities so that Nomino could open a bridge to the void in between. The plan succeeded. The bridge was opened. The Aeon attacked from there, and many angels met their final demise. But at some point, a failsafe set up by the angels was triggered, destroying the facility and forcing the bridge to close. This is what happened as far as Nerus was aware. But something about his history piqued my curiosity. I have to admit, I'm impressed at how much you know about the angels. Are these things Nomino knew and told the great shapeshifters about?
Not exactly.
Nerus opened his eyes, but they had a distant look on them.
Nomino knows they did not reproduce, but he never bothered to explain us why.
How do you know then? His eyelids closed again, this time out of a palpable hesitance. The great shapeshifter sighed and looked at me.
Something else happened before the Battle of the Aeon.
Oh? At this point, I had stopped stroking for fur without really realizing, and my eyes fixated on his.
I haven't told anyone else this. I will appreciate it if you didn't mention it to others. I met an angel once.
I tilted my head and dragged my tail across the mattress behind me. What do you mean?
I mean, I got to talk with one, like civilized people.
Really? How did that happen?
It was shortly before the Battle of the Aeon. Nomino asked me to scout the outskirts of the city we had been attacking. I'm not the most stealthy of shapeshifters, but I can still disguise myself, and even if I got caught, I could fight my way out. By the way, keep brushing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nerus grinned and patted my head before resuming his story.
It was a cold morning. White clouds covered most of the sky, but an orange tint permeated the top of the few trees and buildings nearby. A somewhat humid and pleasant breeze occasionally passed by, always accompanied by whistling. I was walking over the wet grass to the side of the road, towards the city. There hadn't been any shapeshifter activity in this planet for at least 2,000 years by now. We weren't expecting any angel presence at the city outskirts. Still, it didn't hurt to check. Next to me was a pasture, enclosed by fences made out of iron wires going through rows of thick sticks. A group of spotted quadrupedal animals was eating the grass. Me and one of the animals caught each other's attention. It had risen its head and was staring at me.
He cleared his throat.
That was when I heard steps behind me. I turned around and there he was, an angel.
Were you surprised?
A bit. I saluted him. He didn't say anything back and kept staring at me. I excused myself and went on my way, but I soon realized he was following me.
Oh, he probably suspected you. Were you even disguised at the time? Now that I thought about it, I hadn't seen Nerus shapeshifting at all yet. A situation where he needed to hadn't presented itself in the last year, but sometimes shapeshifters talented at transformations could change forms only to show off. Nerus either wasn't very interested in shapeshifting or didn't have any forms to show off.
Of course.
People on that planet must have been pretty tall.
Actually, no. I will get to it later. Moving on. I am certain he did suspect me, but at the time I decided not to be rash. I sat against the fence to see what he will do. He remained still for a while, and then he started circling around me, sometimes stepping a bit closer. I shot him a glance every once in a while, but ignored him otherwise. Then he... how can I say it?
Nerus' throat rumbled.
He came up to me. He placed a hand on my shoulder and said I was very big for a mortal.
I will think he saw through your disguise.
He did, but he hadn't seemed hostile. So I played along. I pretended to be a mortal and talked to him for a while. He then said if I humored him and came back there next week, he wouldn't tell the others about me. Something about not wanting to share the goods.
I had already figured out the answer, but I decided to ask anyway. And did you?
Yes. He was a very strange fellow, this angel. Sometimes, while we were talking, he will try to sit on my shoulder or hang from it, or he will try to sniff me and play with my hand whenever I stopped him. It was somewhat endearing when he didn't try to bite.
He closed his eyes and his mouth curled into some sort of grimace, as if admitting this jeopardized his pride. It sure sounds like it. Nerus had talked about this as if it had only happened before the Battle of the Aeon. It wasn't hard to imagine the angel he met had perished permanently, or that the ongoing conflict had soured their relationship. It was a good moment to change the topic. So, to get back on topic, what are we having a second battle for? The great shapeshifter once again let out a hum as he gathered his thoughts.
Nomino wants to battle against the angels so we can bring the Eon in again. Except this time, he wants to use a flesh vessel to allow it to stay.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty big deal, huh?
If this works, it might finally put an end to this entire thing.
What will happen to us if that goes as planned and everything ends?
We will return to where we belong, I imagine.
A grim silence fell between the two of us. For a while, the only thing that could be heard in the room was the sound of fur being brushed. I don't expect you to agree. It will feel unfair for things to just end right now. Most shapeshifters want to be released already, but I have barely had time to live my life, let alone happily. Nerus' usual wit returned to his gaze.
Don't be upset, Shax. I doubt it will be that easy and quick. If that was the case, then Nomino would have carried out this plan a long time ago. Something must have changed for him to want to do this, or will change. But he hasn't told us yet.
If you think so.
Even if it does happen soon, you are not wrong. I cannot imagine it being anything but unfair from your perspective. That is why I promise you, I will help you make as many happy memories as you want before it happens. You deserve that much. Shax,
It's just. You can be such a softie, Nerus. Hey, I can't brush your arm like this. Come on, move it. Nerus gave me a puzzled look, unsure of how to gauge my reaction. But he did extend his arm for me. You know, it's strange.
what is?
These weird promises you keep making, they are always the things I wanna hear. Sometimes, it feels like you have known me my entire life. Nerus raised an eyebrow, probably over me calling his promises weird, but did not say anything. How long has it been since I arrived here anyway?
More than a year. A year and a half, perhaps.
That's not that long. Well, I do consider myself a simple guy. Maybe I'm just easy to get to know.
That you are, yes.
Come on, at least deny it.
Can't help the truth. You always wear your heart on your sleeve. It makes you easy to read.
Oh, you are so mean. But you know what? The way you always put up with my nonsense, always trying to make me happy. I think that's why I love you, Nerus.
Did you let that slip?
I'm not that clumsy. I said it on purpose because I mean it. I love you. I repeated it with a wide smile on my face.
Oh.
My sudden confession left Nerus frozen in place. Even after I finished brushing his arm, he wouldn't move. I was starting to worry I had done something bad. Nerus? As soon as I spoke, the great shapeshifter sat up and placed his hands on my shoulders. He surprised me and made me jump a little. There was a fierce, determined look in his eyes that made them look more like rings of fire burning in the dark.
Shax,
Yes?
I have something important to tell you later.
Later?
Yes. I want to say it on a special occasion. So, about making memories, is there anything in particular you would like to do? Just answer, please.
You know, there is one place where I once traveled during a family vacation that I really liked. Enough to go back there on my own a couple of times, but I haven't visited for years now.
That is somewhat unexpected.
I know, right? So, there is this one city by the sea. It isn't huge, but it got a nice beach and the stars look wonderful at night. When you talk about making memories together, that place was the first thing that came to mind.
Sounds good. I will make some space in my schedule for it. And when we go there, if it seems appropriate, I will tell you that. Understood?
Yes. Nerus cleared his throat.
Will you like a massage after this? I can't imagine you will be anything but sore after you are done.
Sounds like a fair trade. That way you get to touch me all over too. Anyway, let go of me and leave your other arm. I'm not done yet.
Right.
And Nerus? I'll be looking forward to what you wanna tell me. He nodded, that fiery determination still in his eyes. 2 days later, Nerus and I met by the entrance at noon to set off to our one-day vacation. I was surprised to see he had arranged it to happen so soon. Not that I was complaining. Is it really okay for you to take a day off on such a short notice?
It will be all right. It means I will have extra work tomorrow, but I do not mind.
I see. Well then, one last thing before we go. I can pass as a tourist just fine in that place, but we will need to do something about your eyes, Nerus. You got too many, and they just look too scary for mortals to handle.
True. They will notice I am a shapeshifter right away. But fret not, I have a form for these occasions.
Let's see it. Nerus's body started undergoing a small transformation. The position of his ears changed slightly, one row of eyes disappeared, and his fur gained a few darker spots and became thicker all around as well. It didn't look that different from his usual appearance, but it did him a much friendlier aura.
What do you think?
You kinda look like you're wearing a fake mustache. Oh, but you still look good as ever, yes. I just found that detail funny. It should be good enough for you to pass as a mortal too.
Very well. Are you ready to part then?
Yes, I already packed everything we will need. Let's go! I took a glove off and he took my hand.
We
teleported into the middle of a forest. One could hear the birds chirping in the distance and the rustle of the leaves on the ocean wind. The salty smell of the sea was faint, but it definitely was there as well. Nerus almost fell when we appeared, having landed on an uneven spot, but he managed to regain his balance. You okay?
Road landing aside, yes.
Alright, this way. The beach isn't very far. And do watch your step.
It's been so long since I last came to one of these.
Really? When was the last time you took a vacation, Nerus?
A vacation? I have never taken one, I believe.
Oh. Let's make this fun then. We can enjoy the beach and then visit the town if you want.
Sounds good. Let us look for a good spot to sit down.
We walked down the beach for a few minutes, holding hands the entire time. Nerus was trying to look immutable as always, but I would catch him smiling at me or at the sea every once in a while. Soon, we found a nice spot without many other people around, so we decided to settle there. There wasn't a huge influx of tourists at this time of the year, so it was mostly locals or fishermen at the beach. I took off my backpack, opened it, and grabbed a red gingham from the inside. Nerus helped me spread it, and we sat on it. Do you want a drink, Nerus? I offered him one of the canned drinks we had brought with us. I was already treating myself to one of them.
I will drink later. More importantly, this is a nice place. It feels very peaceful.
Yes, I kinda wish you could have lived somewhere like this with my family. But they always preferred big, populated cities instead. Because of work, but still. I like it there being people around, but when you put so many mortals in a single small place, it becomes rather chaotic.
And I imagine the mansion is a bit too desolate and dark for your tastes.
It goes beyond being peaceful right into creepy territory, yes. Why did you move there, Nerus, if you don't mind me asking?
It's because of a silly reason.
Well, let's hear it.
I moved there because of the wildflowers. Since they are one in some of my oldest memories, I think of them as precious. But they are delicate. Even a bit of light is enough to kill them.
So you moved somewhere you could raise them. Wow, that's pretty romantic.
Do you think so?
Yes. I guess I can abandon all hope of convincing you to move somewhere right there then.
We will see.
I'm kind of jealous. I don't have any hobby with an interesting backstory like that.
Surely you had something you liked to do back home.
I guess I had a taste for drawing with crayons when I was a baby. And playing fighting games, but they aren't available everywhere.
Now, that sounds interesting. Does that mean you know how to fight?
What? No, not that kind of fighting. Jeez, you really like throwing hands, huh?
Only recreationally, believe it or not.
Do you like boxing, for instance?
I prefer wrestling.
Like the shows and such?
Those?
I suppose you wouldn't know about those. The great shapeshifter looked to the side, putting up a sour face as I giggled. It was sort of adorable how he'd get confused about mortal customs, despite his age. But this wasn't the sort of thing he would know by living locked up in that house. I tried my best to explain to him the kind of wrestling shows some mortal communities seem to enjoy. Even after I finished, he was still raising an eyebrow, as someone bewildered expression on his face.
Those sound entertaining, but they are a spectacle. When I'm fighting, I prefer something more authentic, like oil or nude wrestling.
I recoiled, tried to keep my drink from exploding out of my mouth. I raised my head to take one big gulp and put the can down for the time being. I see. Nerus fighting like that must be quite a spectacle too.
Shax, did you just get dirty thoughts?
Huh?
I can see it in your eyes. Unacceptable. There is nothing sexual about wrestling, or any form of fighting for that matter, Shax. Fighting is a means to nourish one's manliness, as well to hone one's own skills and obtain power.
Although sooner than I expected, I picked my can up and sipped it from time to time as I heard Nerus rant about his love for fighting, giving him a nod or a blink every once in a while. He went on and on about manliness and humbleness and integrity. He seemed passionate about it. I even started feeling like I wanted to punch someone myself. For him, fighting wasn't about showing off physical strength or subduing an opponent, but about testing his ideals of masculinity.
No, he's an old man.
I would lie if I said I saw the correlation, but it sounded interesting nevertheless. Besides, it was the first time I had seen him rant about a topic like this.
I miss fighting.
Surely there are people out there who would like to fight you, Nerus.
No one is willing outside of the other grey shapeshifters, but they don't share my passion for it. I am afraid I have become very rusty because of that, too.
I will challenge you, but with the way your fist dance went, I think it's obvious I couldn't put up much of a fight.
Such a shame. I am certain you will be a worthy opponent, if not for your height. You do have a fighting spirit, if you ask me.
What makes you say that?
You are somewhat timid, I believe, but your eyes tell me something different. There is an unrelenting quality to them.
Oh? Then I have a fighting spirit because of the way my eyes look?
They are the windows to the soul, after all. Or so Nomino says.
Some mortals say things like that too. You probably heard it from them once and liked the sound of it. But I guess he isn't wrong.
What makes you say that?
I suppose I was fighting in my own way before moving in with you.
Indeed. Shax, I have an inquiry. I must admit that the concept of wrestling shows you described baffles me. What is enjoyable about a fake fight?
Oh, it isn't about the fighting itself, I guess. Most mortals have it rough, so they enjoy all kinds of entertainment. Wrestling shows are staged, but as long as they brighten someone's day, or make them feel something, they are good enough.
I suppose so. In a way, they are like books, then.
Yeah, let's say that.
Do you ever think about how mortals and shapeshifter often end up using the same things as distraction?
You mean things such as books?
Correct.
I think everyone has gasps in their hearts that a good story can fill. Little adventures we want to go on, a feeling we crave.
That we even have such needs makes me question if we really are as unaffected by matter as Nomino says.
I'm not sure it's only about the corruption. What about detective stories, for example? The main draw in those is deducing the criminal before the end. Aren't intellectual challenges a thing of the soul? Even if the puzzle itself is just a fabrication. Nerus crossed his arms.
Maybe there is a wish to protect one's community or get revenge involved.
But it's not your own tragedy. You don't need to have been the victim of a crime to enjoy mysteries. Seeing the great shapeshifter's face grow serious made an idea pop up in my mind. What about love stories? What does love have to do with matter? He swung his eyes away and fixed his suit.
Well, since Mother makes for infinite lives, mortals and beasts alike inherited the need to pass down their genes, and that's why...
Hold on 1 second. So in your opinion, the end goal for love is creating an offspring? I closed my eyes and gave him a huge smile. I wasn't expecting you to be that kind of person, but I'm not opposed. I'll make sure to keep it in mind. Nerus closed his eyes as the inside of his ears gained a bright pink coloration. I wasn't able to contain my giggling. It was a bit mean of me considering his circumstances, but he just looked so adorable while flustered. Especially considering how seriously he usually acts. Oh, I'm sorry, Nerus. You just made it so easy.
I was not expecting it, it's all. But I am glad you are comfortable enough around me to be so playful. And that you are having a good time. To be honest, I was worried I will bore you.
Not at all. It's fun spending time together. Besides, I looked down, feeling a bit deflated all of a sudden. And I saw the hand I was holding the can with trembling. I held it and pushed it onto my lap. I focused on the great shapeshifter again. So, Nerus, what do you say we go to see the town now?
Of course. I would like to see it before sunset.
Okay, let's pack up. I wanted to show Nerus around the city, but it almost felt as if I was doing the opposite. The great shapeshifter looked like a mortal, but his height still attracted a lot of eyes towards us. I don't think anyone realized the truth, but it still made me a bit uncomfortable.
This is what I call a port city, yes?
Uh-huh. People here make a living by catching fish and then selling it to nearby towns. Which reminds me, we should check out the local restaurants. The dishes they serve are excellent. By the time we got out of the restaurant, the sun was already setting, and most of the shops in town were preparing to close. We walked around some more, visited a few landmarks and souvenir stands, but were running out of places to go to.
Where to next?
Do you want to go to the Stargazing spot? I doubt we will find anything open unless you want to go to a tavern.
You did mention the stars look wonderful from here. Of course then, lead the way.
We made our way out of the city and walked in direction to the forest over the cliff by the sea. As we were climbing a slope, I heard Nerus grunt and sometimes yelp behind me. Is everything okay back there?
Yes, I just keep bumping my head against branches.
Oh, hang on, we're almost there. Rays of moonlight welcomed us to a vast clearing adorned by blue flowers. To me, it seemed like a moment ripped straight out of a fairy tale. The thin blue light gave the place a fantastical feeling.
Is this the place?
Yes. Pretty, huh?
Indeed. This is the sort of sight you only get to see in the wild. Although, I suppose it must be more common in worlds that aren't that technologically developed, such as this one. But even then, it is remarkable. How did you find this?
A bit of luck on a sleepless night. Hehe. Hey. Let's lie down over there. Nerus nodded and followed me. I let my backpack slide off my shoulders and threw myself to the ground. The sensation of the grass on my feathers and scales brought back a lot of good memories from the times I had decided to retreat into this little corner. All the nights I spent here, just listening to the sounds of the forest, or trying to find shapes among the stars, came back to me in an instant. Good memories. I heard grass being stepped on while Nerus looked for a good place to lie down. He finally lay down the opposite direction from me, so our heads would be next to each other.
Now, this is a nice view. I sort of wish the stars could be seen from the mansion.
Now that you mention it, why is it that they are not visible when it's always so dark there?
It is the same reason there is no sunlight. The atmosphere in that world doesn't allow any light to break in.
Oh geez, considering how little you got out, this is the first time you've seen the stars in a long time, huh?
Indeed. They are even more gorgeous than I remember. Sometimes, it is hard to believe they are mere imitations. So, did you used to come here just to watch the stars?
No, not really. Sometimes I will bring a tent with me, make a small campfire, and either watch videos, play some game, or just read. Oh, and I will bring stuff to cook, of course. Or hunt if I didn't have any. There are lots of small animals in this forest if you come during the day. But this became my little refuge for when things got rough back at home.
I see.
It's too bad I don't have a tent big enough to fit you in it.
We could get one for the next time you want to come here. Spending the night camping sounds like it will be fun.
We could snuggle up in the tent and read a book together after a campfire cook meal. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Now I am regretting not preparing for this more thoroughly.
It's fine. For now, just being out here with you makes me happy enough. I placed my hand on the side of his face and started caressing it. Nerus let out a pleased grunt in response. After watching the stars for a few minutes, my hand still on Nerus' face, I felt the great shapeshifter move from his spot. His upside-down silhouette appeared in my field of view. I could tell from the 4 scarlet irises that he had returned to his usual appearance.
Shax, I am...
Realizing it was going to be too awkward to hold a conversation like this, he backed off and shifted some until he was laying on his side, next to me. I moved to mirror his position.
Okay. Yes. How do I say this?
I blinked at his sudden awkwardness, but waited as he collected his thoughts. It was that same lack of experience that had shown its head when I teased him at the beach.
How come I am so bad with words when it comes to things like this?
You can do it, Nerus. I believe in you.
Right, so... Actually, allow me to...
He gave up on using only words to try to communicate what he was feeling. He put his arm around me and pulled me closer to him, squeezing me tight against his chest. Nerus then rolled onto his back and sat up, prompting me to do the same, on his lap. It was an intimate enough position. I could feel the blood rushing to my face and other parts. But he continued speaking, either not noticing or not caring.
As I was saying,
Nerus looked straight down at me.
I love you too, Shax.
Such an expressive way to say it. I love you, Nerus.
Am I doing this right?
Just do what feels right to you, Nerus. He let out an amused sigh.
I wonder if you could handle me if I did just that.
What is that supposed to mean?
Are you certain you want to find out? I might get rough.
My heart was nearly hammering out of my chest. Why don't you give me a taste? Nerus brought me higher so he could bring his fangs to my neck. And like that day more than a year ago at the party, it sent a jolt of electricity traveling down my spine. I tried to keep my cool and give him a snarky retort. Well, looks like underneath that gentlemanly sigh... What? Nerus grabbed me by the back of my head and pulled me close to his face. He could have done that right then, but stopped at the last second, his eyes scanning for something. After a moment, I nodded, and then he proceeded. We opened our mouths and interlocked in a kiss. The only way I could describe it was overwhelming. I could feel as the great shapeshifter's hands made their way under my tabard and then my shirt, caressing my naked back beneath. He wasn't forceful with his tongue, but when it came to using it, he was much more confident than me. Compared to before, he had turned the tables on me. It felt as if he was pouring years' worth of bottle of affection in me. It made my entire body feel hot, and my heart beat like crazy. His love overwhelmed me. It surrounded me from all sides. By the time Nerus broke the keys, I had become a panting mess, and I couldn't help but let my body collapse on his chest. Oh jeez, I wouldn't mind getting used to this.
Let me take a look at your face.
Before I could say anything, Nerus shoved his entire thumb into my mouth, pinning my tongue in place. He nudged me away, just enough to look at me in the eyes, with that judging gaze he will always wear when gouging something.
You seem to be enjoying yourself.
I tried to laugh, but it just wouldn't come out. Not because his thumb was in the way, but rather I couldn't get it to come out. A pleasant dizziness was settling down in my mind. I imagine my expression reflected that, judging from Nerus' smug smile.
What a good boy you are, Shax.
He removed his thumb from my mouth. A small string of saliva remained hanging from it. Thank you. I felt the heat rising to my face again. I had underestimated how submissive I could get.
That night Bern visited, I noticed you became tense when I stopped you from leaving, but it did not strike me as fear. I guess now I know why.
As I said, just do what feels right for you. Although, I really would like to rest now.
Let me just...
Nerus reclined again, allowing me to lie on him as he patted my back. I soon started feeling a bit drowsy from both all the affection and the kissing from earlier, so I suggested we call it a night and went back.
Good idea. I will hate to have you interrupt your sleep, so you can take us back later.
Also, how can I put this?
You want to spend the night at my dormitory, I imagine.
Can I?
I sleep nude. So, if you don't mind that, you are free to join me.
Oh, I have already seen you with just your pants. And that doesn't leave much to the imagination.
If that's what you think. After this, we are boyfriends, am I right?
Of course, dummy. I giggled and scratched his chin. Nerus closed his eyes and held me tighter. We remained like that a bit longer before getting up.
Is it just me, or there is still a salty smell in the air? Shax inspected his clothes as well as the soles of his feet. There was a considerable amount of sand sticking to him. I did the same. I tried to wipe the sand off my suit, but it was determined to not come off. All I managed to do was to get it stick on my hands.
Let's make sure to clean our feet on the carpet. We don't want to make a mess for Sebos.
I grunted in annoyance. Of course. Perhaps I should take a bath before bed. If you want to sleep with me, you will need to wash yourself as well. I do not want sand getting under my blanket.
Fair enough.
Shax started walking towards the house, but I didn't move an inch, staring at his back.
Are you coming?
Oh, yes.
And that's where we're gonna leave it for today. That was a pretty cute episode. This whole story about Nerus meeting an angel, some of you already think what I'm thinking, that maybe this little angel somehow is connected to Shax in some way, because the way he describes them, like not only in demeanor but also in how he talks about it like so fondly. It was thanks to that angel that he got like the nickname Nerus. It seems like like a very important piece of information. And I don't know, there's also this whole conversation, like a very metatextual conversation about mysteries, about how the thrilling part of reading a mystery novel is to engage with it and to try to solve it before the novel like gives you the answer. I don't know, I find like that very interesting, because in a way it's like the author is telling us to come on, you can solve the mystery. I am giving you the tools, and I want you to engage with my story. And that, I don't know, I find that quite exciting. I like reading mystery novels. It's kind of sort of like a puzzle. It gives you enough tools so you can figure out what's going on behind the scenes. And I don't know, it reminds me a lot of when I read Umineko, and there was this bit about how a mystery requires like two people. It requires the author to trust their audience and trust that the clues they are leaving around are good enough for the audience so they can solve the mystery. And it also requires the engagement from the audience, from the reader, and the trust they have on the author, that the author is leading them somewhere with this little trail that he is leaving, and that there is gonna be an answer in the end that is gonna make sense. And it's some sort of a compromise between the two, of trusting each other. I don't know, that's something I find like very exciting about this genre. Something that I like. And well, that's also a point that has disappointed me with some mystery stories. in which, I don't know, you can feel like the author doesn't give you enough tools to solve it, and then introduces a new element down the line to say, haha, I got you. You thought it was this thing, but it actually was this other thing all along. And I don't know, it doesn't feel satisfactory. You just feel like betrayed because you were promised one thing and then down the line you found out actually this whole thing you were engaged with and you try to make sense of, it doesn't matter because this other thing that there was no way you could possibly know about was the actual answer. And that like leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and it only feels it feels like that those sort of mysteries like only serve to stroke the ego of the author. I don't know, I felt a lot, particularly like in the BBC Sherlock series, a lot of the mysteries went in like that, where they hit very important stuff just so in the end you could get a haha gotcha moment. And well, I know I already went into a rant of murder mysteries and these kind of stories, but yeah, I don't know. I'm very excited about reading this story because it feels like the author is giving us clues, and particularly with this scene, is telling us, yeah, this mystery can be solved if you put enough thought into it, and if you really engage with it. So trust me, this is gonna go somewhere. So yeah, that's well, maybe that's maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I don't know. That's the sensation it's been giving me so far, and that's why I had these little talks at the end, in which I give like some of my thoughts on what happened in the episode. So yeah, well, tell me down the comments what was your opinion on this episode, on this cute little date between these two boyfriend boys, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.